Huh?
Vayera.
All right.
Vayera.
Parashat Vayera. Parashat Vayera is maybe one of the most, as far as I'm concerned at least, of course there are going to be plenty of people who disagree, probably one of the most mystical and unknown mystical parashot that we have. The pasuk, the parasha starts with two different types of outlooks. The first one, it says, Vayera elav Hashem, right? And God looked upon him. That means that God looked from up, down, and then Vayisa enav vayireh, right? And then he carried his eyes up, take some children, and then he saw. In other words, looking from down, up. According to the Kabbalah, this is an interaction of two different types of reflection. We have the reflection of the divine light that goes down, and that's called Or Yashar, and the outlook of a person that looks up, and that's called Or Chozer, repeating light. Right? The divine, I say, what we call Re'iyah, the divine outlook, is a form of revelation of chesed, of kindness, of enlightenment, but it's not really complete unless a person is able to look up with his eyes and see it. In other words, a person needs to be awakened to the awareness, to the recognition, and to actively participate in the revelation, and that is called Soda Shechina. That's the secret of the Shechina. In other words, it's not a one-sided revelation, but rather a meeting of what is so-called Ayin Be'ayin, eye to eye. And we use this expression many times. I see, me and him, we see eye to eye. What does it mean we see eye to eye? We put our eyes together. I mean, what does it mean? It's kind of weird, no? Eye to eye, that it means here. I see you and you see me. We see the same thing together. So, the word Re'eh in the Torah is not just looking, physical looking, but it really touches the source of our internal awareness, which we call Re'iyah Shebalev, looking with your heart. And in Lashon HaSod, in Kabbalah, it says, Re'iyah igilui shel chokhmah. Re'iyah, this kind of vision, seeing, is a revelation of wisdom, which is the light that returns from the Binah to the Da'at. That's what we have. When Avraham Avinu, by the way, this is going to be so long, and I am sure that I will have to make a lot of shortcuts, and I'm not going to be able to do the whole thing. This is, I really had to, I had another page. I wrote about 4.5 pages. I have 5 pages. I had to take some stuff out because it was just like too long. There's so much stuff here. I cannot tell you. I really cannot tell you. It's unbelievable. If we just be able to do it. So, when Avraham Avinu sees, for example, the three people, we call it the three people, he doesn't just see his bodies. And by the way, Rabotai, this is so important. This idea is so important to almost every aspect of our life. Even a relationship between a husband and wife, between when you go on the shidduch and so on and so forth. When you meet somebody, this is so important, this parasha, this concept. So Avraham Avinu doesn't just see bodies themselves, he sees divine sparks. He sees divine sparks. And he sees divine sparks dressed up in a human form. This is an outlook of internal wisdom. An outlook that has not a judgmental outlook, but rather an outlook of revelation. We usually like to judge people. Excuse me, argument's sake. Let's say you wear this kind of a kippah and I don't know, whatever you wear, a sweatshirt or whatever it is. I see, and an argument, look at him, and I see he wears a washed down black kippah and a white shirt, black pants. I say, he's more religious than you. That's a judgmental, wrong outlook. We should not ever do that. We should look in a form of revelation. We say, he has a nitzotz Eloki, a divine spark. You have a nitzotz Eloki, a divine spark. That's all I care about. You are a human being, he is a human being. You are a Jew, he is a Jew. That's the way we look at it. We don't look at things any other way. That's why Avraham Avinu is doing, thank you. That's what Avraham Avinu is doing, and that's what Torah is trying to tell us. Rav Nachman Mibreslev says that we always have to see the good point in any person. Only when we see the good point in every person, then, and I'll pause a little bit, then we'll see the divine. Now, many people think that we'll see the divine in him, and I'm going to tell you, no. Only when you're able to see the good point in every person, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be revealed to you. And if there is a reason why we're in such hester panim, in such hiding, that it seems that when we ask ourselves, where is God? I am almost sure that it is because we are too judgmental, and too critical, and not being able to see the good in every person. And that's a very sad point. When we're able to do so, we always talk about Shmirat HaEinayim or Tikkun HaReiyah. Tikkun HaReiyah is not just not looking at, let's say, inappropriate sites, so-called. Tikkun HaReiyah is not seeing only the external part of the person or external part of reality, but what we call to see the tselem, the spark inside each and every person. We judge beauty. I mean, and that's what Shlomo HaMelech told us. Sheker achen vehevel hayofi. Beauty is all nonsense. What's important in a woman? Yirat Hashem. That's what's important. We need to be able to see that. When we are looking internally, beyond form, beyond shape, there is a type of a vision or sight that is not stuck in an object. It's not just stuck on the outside. The outside, our layer of skin is like, I don't know, a fraction of a millimeter. It's like nothing. But if we look at the people externally, we are not able to penetrate into the person. We only see the outside. We get stuck with it. So when we're able to see internally, we're able to see the emptiness inside of it as well. Whatever happened to him, whatever he had to go through. As it says, the Avraham Avinu, for example, Yoshev Petach HaOel Kechol Hayom. Right? Avraham Avinu sits at the edge of his tent, and it was very, very hot. Right? Avraham Avinu is in a state, but it's basically telling us that Avraham Avinu is in a state of complete opening. Bepetach HaOel. He sits in the opening. In other words, and what's the complete opening? Of awareness that is not judgmental. We have to stop being judgmental. He doesn't withdraw into himself, but rather he's opening up, like a heart that opens up. That's exactly what it is.
Was that a result of the Brit Milah?
Excuse me?
Was that a result of the Brit Milah?
We'll see what the Brit Milah has to do with that as well, but it has to do with that as well, but we'll see. But even without the Brit Milah, that's because the choice that he had made, he said, you know what, I got to stop being judgmental. It's a stage Avraham Avinu reached. You're not born with this. Nobody's born with this. You have to work, you have to strive for it. When the heart, which is the awareness, right, then he sees the three people, he doesn't, for example, startle. He's afraid, who are these people are coming? You know, call the National Guard or whatever it is. He's not disconnecting. So, let me just go inside. Maybe they'll pass and not. No, Avraham Avinu gets up and he runs towards them. Avraham Avinu runs towards the people. In a way, this is kind of an act of, I'll call it, for lack of a better term, Hasidic Zen, if we call it this way. And that is a re'iyah, a vision, and a sight that turns into an action. Some kind of a form of meditation to become of a service. And Avraham Avinu teaches us that enlightenment is not just sitting down in meditation and going being meditative. That's not what it is. But it really comes and derives from the ability to see the light in the other one or in the one who stands in front of me. That is a true enlightenment. When you're able to recognize the light in the other person who stands in front of you, and to light his way in real action, not just in empty words. And especially, guys, it comes to us especially, for example, when we go to weddings or we go, God forbid, to funerals or Nechum Avelim. We go to a wedding, we put on this fake smile, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. We don't care. We go to Nechum Avelim. I'm sorry to hear. I share your. You don't care. You go outside 2 seconds, you're talking to your friend. Hey, by the way, you saw what happened. This cowboy sold days.
In the moment, maybe you care though.
They don't care. It's a fake. You look at the people's eyes. It's only here. People don't care. That is something to guide somebody the road to make somebody really happy. You gotta do something for it. You gotta do something for it. How are you going to share the simcha if you haven't contributed anything? How are you going to share the person's pain if you don't really care? You said, if anything, most people go, you know what, it's a mitzvah to go, so I get a mitzvah. You're not going for him, you're going for yourself. You have to guide him the way. Sit down. After everybody goes, you don't need to come to the first one and make sure that everybody sees you. Stay there for, You go there after everybody is gone. Sit down with the guy. I don't know what. Give him a cigarette. Just sit outside. Talk. Just give him come a support. True support. Turn your words into action. Turn your words. That's how you become enlightened. Not by just doing all this thing. And in the Zohar it says, in other words, the awakening from above comes only because of awakening from down here, from below, exactly. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to us, he's revealing only to those who open their eyes, the internal eyes. As we say, Karov Hashem lekol keroav, God is close to all those who call him. However, it says, wait a minute, lekol asher korim lo be'emet. What do you mean korim lo be'emet? There are those people who call upon God no be'emet? Absolutely. Because you just want to get over with it. So, I got a daven shmonai. So, okay, let's just get over with this. Let me go back to what I'm doing and watch, Netflix or whatever I'm doing now. You don't care about that. So God is not close to you because you haven't seeked this closeness. As they say, harotze tarav yavo elav. You have to go to the rabbi. The rabbi doesn't have to look for you. When the rabbi has to call you, listen, why aren't you coming to learn? Why aren't you coming to daven? And so on and so forth. He's basically telling you, listen, why don't you care about this? It's for your benefit. And we have to remember this. Karov Hashem lekol keroav, lekol asher keru be'emet. You're calling people and you don't really mean it. You're calling Hashem, you don't really mean it. And that's very sad. Avraham Avinu teaches us this lesson now. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Harini et mar'aich, show me your looks, Hashmini et kolech. In other words, show me really what you see. Show me really who you truly are, and show me what you see. And if you see good, well, you're going to do good. Show me really who you are. Don't just talk. Don't just talk the talk, actually walk the walk. That's more important. The true vision really happens in a place it's called between one side, between one re'iyah to the other re'iyah. And that's done in the quiet and in this pause time between the look and to the understanding. That split of a second that you saw something and you got it. And it really happens, this like intuition that we have. And that only comes, intuition in Ivrit will be Bina. And a person is Baal Bina, is a person who is very sharp and keen intuition. He doesn't need to say, you just look at him, he can grab something by, almost like those who do analysis for micro expressions. Almost the same thing. You can say whatever you want to say, but he looks at the angle you put your eyes, he knows you're lying. He knows what goes into you. It's the same thing. And that is the place in which a person touches the Ein Sof. That's the place that a person touches the light that has no shape, and that's the state of Vayera. In other words, Re'iyah, seeing, that is not of an eye, but rather seeing with your soul, seeing with your spirit. And that is very, very important. We see things only to our eyes. And by the way, where are you going? Oh, okay, sit down. It's okay, sit down. Take something. And if you know anything about basic physics, what we see is upside down. We see everything reverse. Because the shape of our eye, of the lenses of our eyes, the reflection that we see, really, if I look at this, let's say for example, camera, everything is upside down. But in the back of our mind, in the back of our head, there's a nerve, and there is another element that reverses it, that makes us see the way we see. For example, if a person has a cataract, right, and he, let's say, looks up and he sees a little blurry in the eye, you would say that the blur in the eye is really on top. No, the cataract is really on the bottom, because you see everything reversed. Don't judge with your eyes, because everything that you see with your eyes is just reverse. You see a guy you think is really the best guy in the world, you look at him with your eyes. He's probably not. Don't rely on your eyes. Let your neshama look. It's a much better tool. We can say so many things about this, Einayim, Chalon HaNefesh, right? But that point, right in between, that's a sight. In other words, for us, the greatest organ in the body that is in charge of seeing is not necessarily the eye, is your soul. The problem is our soul is being corrupted.
How's that work?
How do we corrupt
soul?
Because the truth is, okay, I'll teach you something. Okay, I want to go further, but I'll explain to you. I'll take a break. For example, there are certain kids or animals, for that matter, that would go to people without any explanation. They will just go to them and they'll be quiet and they come like this. Certain you might have an uncle that he seems to be like a nice guy. Your kid come to him and he will scream, doesn't want to go near him like he sees Malach HaMavet. He feels that vibe. We learned to justify things. Oh, this uncle, he gives a lot of gifts. He's a good uncle. He gives a lot of gifts. So I learned to love him because of bribery. I bribe my neshama. But deep down inside, if you be very careful, what is right, what is wrong. You would know deep down inside of you who is a good person, who is a bad person. The problem is the mind. We trained ourselves. We let the mind take over without any kind of checks and bounds of the neshama. And that's what we do to our kids. That's what we do to ourselves. And that's not the way to get spiritually enlightened. Okay? When a person is able to reach that stage, everything that he sees becomes a divine look, a divine object. Everything that he sees. Avraham Avinu does not just see three men. He sees three divine sparks. Three different appearances of God, because the divine spark is a part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in each and every one. He sees the manifestation of God in three different ways. And from here, this is how the way of Am Yisrael is all about. To see God in reality. God is not separate from reality. He is within reality, not outside of it. And it says, Vayera elav, again, where? Be'elonei mamre, right? Elonei mamre. It's a nice settlement that the Jews were able to go back to after 2,000 years, regardless what your, mayor says. Of course, the question is, why only Mamre? Why only in the place of Mamre? Avraham Avinu was deserving to have a divine revelation anywhere. Why only in Mamre? So the answer is, Mamre, it was the place in which he got the advice. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the advice to actually circumcise himself, the Brit Milah. You asked me if it was like this. So it was in the place. In other words, he encouraged Avraham to do an act, and the actual act of circumcision of Milah, the way the Jewish people do it, is to do an act of a complete self-dismissal towards the will of God. What should I cut? I should cut my little Johnny? For what? I'm going to cut it? I mean, if I could put an extension, it would be better. No, I'm going to cut it. Why? God told me to. God told me to. What I want does not count. What God tells me, that's what I do. He told Avraham Avinu then, that was his first test. Avraham Avinu one of his tests, sorry. Right? This kind of an act really contradicts any common sense, any kind of emotion. I'm going to harm my body? Yes, God asked me to, so that's what I'll do. So because of that, and this is the first secret of the parasha, the divine revelation happens only in a place that a person really is mevatel himself, really dismantles his self urges to. You cannot see God if you are full of yourself. You need to make some room in yourself to see God. And until you empty yourself completely, you're not going to see Him. God is not going to reveal Himself to you. We are very much full of ourselves. God is not being able to reveal Himself. Not because He doesn't want to, because we don't let Him. We don't let God to reveal Himself to us. As I said, I'm not going to be able to finish this whole entire thing, but we'll try to make a best effort. Going back to the three angels that the Avraham Avinu sees, according to Kabbalah, is a remez, a hint for the three olamot, the three levels of Bria, Yetzirah, Ve'asiyah. Bria, Yetzirah, Ve'asiyah. And he runs towards them. In other words, the neshama, it's all symbolism here. The neshama wants to and runs towards bringing the light to these three levels of reality, of Bria, of Yetzirah, and Asiyah. We need to run towards those things. When Avraham Avinu, for example, brings guests in, he does hospitality, right? He brings the light into the boundaries of time and matter. And that is a tremendous tikkun, to turn this earthy thing that we call a meal into a rendezvous with God. Think about this. How many times have I asked you, when you eat and you make a bracha, do you eat to make a bracha or you make a bracha to eat? How many times have I told you that? When you only eat so you can make a bracha, you're basically summoning God here, because you're talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in present tense. Baruch, what? Ata, you. Ata. Excuse me, I'm about to make a bracha, please. Come here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes here. It's an opportunity for you to actually speak to God face to face, eye to eye. You miss it. Why? Because you want to get over with the bracha. Come on. I want to make the bracha. Let me eat. The bagel is hot. I want to eat. I want to eat a big corned beef sandwich, even though I don't eat meat. But I want to eat. I got to have time now for bracha. Quick. The same thing with Birkat HaMazon. He's summoning down. HaKadosh Baruch Hu summoning. Give him a summons. Come. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, I'm waiting here. And you go, your Birkat HaMazon like this. Amen. That's it. You're missing on a golden opportunity. You don't understand it. Every bracha that you make, every seudah, and that's what Avraham Avinu does here. He brings the what he taught people, and he wants to elevate this earthy interaction into an experience with the divine himself. Of course, these guests are malachim, right? And what they eat, they actually nourish. What they nourish from? They nourish from the chesed. Why? Because they come to show us that a person could, in a way, feed the Shekhinah by his action in this world. In other words, God doesn't need to eat, right? But you give that kind of feeling of satisfaction, or the act of chesed, by doing this into this world. Doing chesed into this world. That is what does it. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed, was seen to him in Alonei Mamre. Alon is an oak tree. It's a very hard tree. Dafka be'elone mamre, right? And that is the hard wood is a symbolism to the body, to materialism, where there the light is being revealed. In other words, only inside this world, betoch, inside, vare elav be'alone mamre. It means inside the oaks of Mamre. It's a big symbolism. You want to see the real light? You're going to turn the earthly reality and bring the light on it. Let the light shine from inside. Chazal ask, of course, as we again, why is that? And the answer is Dafka be'elone, because he was willing to be mevatel himself for the Brit Milah. And immediately after that, right, in this world, right, in our world, the light, which is, guys, it's a tremendous idea. Dafka specifically in this world, the hard world, the physical world, the world of tzimtzum, this is where you actually see the light the more. In the darkness, you see the greatest light. Again, as I told you, you might think that right now we are facing dark times. I'm going to tell you, you're right. We are facing dark times. There's a great shadow casting over all of us. All over us as Jews and over all of us as a democracy in this country, in this city. However, now is the opportunity to show the real light. Don't fall afraid. Don't become afraid of the darkness. Turn the light on. And this is our opportunity to turn the tables over, to flip them all over. And immediately after that, it says, Vayisa eina vayere. Avraham Avinu sees also, Akadosh Baruch Hu is being seen, and Avraham sees him. That meeting between those two abilities to see, we could actually say that this is an opening for internal ability to see internally as well. Where Avraham Avinu sits on the as we said on the tent's opening, right? He's open. He's open to see and to receive every person, any person that would come, and any form of revelation that would come through it. Avraham Avinu is willing to face it. Kadosh Baruch Hu is not going to reveal himself to a person who is closed, or a person who is who always wants to be alone. That's why it's very important to have friends. Of course, friends that would help you influence yourself and themselves to do the right thing, to bring Kadosh Baruch Hu about. But Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like people who sit alone all the time, who are isolated. Kadosh Baruch Hu is not going to reveal himself to people who don't want to be a part of the kehillah. That's why they say, if a person has a shul, he doesn't go to the shul, what's the matter with you? It's not about you going to the shul, supporting the shul. It's about you being a part of the tzibur, so God could be revealing himself to you. So ultimately, when you don't go to shul, you don't want to be a part of the kehillah, you don't want to see God. That's what it means. When you don't go away out of your way for your friends, you want to be alone. Leave me alone. I don't want to be a friend to anybody. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to reveal himself to you. You have to be open to people that you like and people you don't like, and be able to, even those you don't like, to see the light inside of them and bring them all out in the open. A person who hates everybody. There are certain people who hate everybody. It doesn't make a difference. What you did to them or what you didn't do to them. They just like to hate everybody. They are being driven by hatred. These are people that God would never be revealing himself to them. Never. You need to be a part of the tzibur. You need to do a person who does chesed. But chesed for the sake of chesed, not chesed for the sake of yourself, so you can get a little medal up in heavens. And that's something that we need to remember as well. By the way, guys, don't disappear because I need you for minyan. You think about all these people that always are secluded with themselves, with no friends, and they always find somebody to fight with, and so on and so forth. you'll see that ultimately their actions are quite rotten. And why? Because of that. If you be able to see that, God will reveal himself to you, and then your actions will change. Everything will be different. You have to remember this. That's why we say, when we learn Gemara, what do we say? O chavruta, or mituta. Either a chavruta or death. What do you mean, chavruta or death? What, am I learn alone, I'll die? What kind of thing is that? Yeah, basically, yeah. It's good to be around people. We don't promote seclusion, sitting down on top of the mountain, and meditating on the cold water. We don't promote that. We want you to go down and help people and establish charities, just like the Jews did. Right? Like we came here to America, so what do we have? We have Mount Sinai, we have Montefiore, we had, what's the name? Bet Israel, Long Island Jewish. I didn't see at Allahu Snack Bar, hospital. That I didn't see. Oh, jihadi clinics. That I did not see. No, there won't be. There may be a more called jihad, but not. Yeah. You know what's funny? What's sad? What's funny and sad is, for example, if a Christian comes and says, I don't know, praise Jesus, right? You're going to find some Christian people laughing and smiling. It makes them feel good, right? You see, lahavdil, a Jew says, Baruch Hashem, right? You see some Jew says, shakes his hand, and people are smiling. When you hear the word Allahu Akbar in the background, everybody takes cover. Just think about that. Because it's not an act of chesed. We do act of chesed all the time. And the fight against Judaism is a fight against God's revelation in the world. The evangelical Christians figured that out. It's not about us, because we represent God. When people fight against the Jews, they're fighting against God. Don't see it any other way. So, when Avraham Avinu, as we said, is open to everybody, Avraham Avinu says that doing chesed, being involved with chesed, is also a form of enlightenment. You don't need to go to Tibet and roll in snow to be enlightened. Just do acts of chesed, right? The revelation will come through action, through doing. Lehavdil, just like Chanoch. Chanoch, every stitch that he did in his shoes, he says, L'shem Shamayim, L'shem Shamayim, L'shem Shamayim. Every action that he did was for the sake of Shamayim. He became a malach. Through action, you can reach higher levels of enlightenment, actions of chesed, of kindness, higher levels of enlightenment than sitting down and meditating and turning into, I don't know what, an icicle. For sure. And what was the chesed? The chesed that he did was the achnasat ochim. He was injured after his circumcision. He said, I don't care. I still need to do achnasat ochim. I'm going to bring the Shekhinah in. I'm going to bring God into my pain, and that's what's going to heal me. When the person sees the person. God sees the person. But the question is, does the person sees God as well? Only when God sees the person and the person sees God, only then see each other in one light. And it's on us, because God is the master of the universe. We need to see things His way, not our way. And in order to really see that, you need to so-called opening your tent to everybody, to reveal yourself to everybody, and not to close yourself within, and so on and so forth. So, okay, let's see if I can skip a little bit. Just 1 second. So, when we said the two different types of seeing, of visions, we said that God sees man and man sees God. That's called a reflection. It's called ishtakfut in Hebrew, reflection. Just like a moon would reflect itself on a still, let's say, lake. In a night, it's something that's like you see that's called the reflection. In Kabbalistic terms, that is, as we said before, the connection between the direct light, right, which is the light of Hashem that goes from above down, which is Or Yashar, to Or Choser, to the reflective light, which is human awareness that goes really up. That empty awareness, that quiet awareness, that is free from separation. Again, a person who divides people could not be a person who has God in his presence. God doesn't like divisions. And when the moon is really reflecting on the lake, right? Only when the lake is quiet, there's no waves and it's quiet and so on and so forth. Only then you could see it. So also when you don't live your life through turmoil of hatred, only then God would reflect His light upon you and you'll be able to see it. And it's something that is very hard for us to understand because we want the whole world to see things our way, including God. And we have to stop with this. As the Mesilat Yesharim says, Chovat ha'adam be'olamo. What it is your obligation in God's world, not God's obligation in your world. That's the way it works. So the divine light really reflects only in a heart that is not closed, that a heart that is not in turmoil. And the 10th is the boundaries. I mean, guys, there's so many things that I can really speak about so much. I'm just trying to condense here for lack of time. So the 10th is the boundaries, and the opening is the passage that you go through. And Abraham sits on the opening, really in the line that is between the inside or the outside. Bepetach haoel, just on the out, part of it is in, part of it is out, right? Or we say, Ben Kodesh lechol, Ani Chai, right? Ben Kodesh lechol, right? In that line between man and the Shekhinah, between man and God. This is the secret of Bain. The letters Bet, Yud, Nun. That's why Chazal tried to warn us to avoid those Bain, right? What do we have? Ben HaMetzarim, Ben HaShmashot. These are the times that, right? Well, that's what we learn. Yeah. Ben HaShmashot is a very tricky time, right? Alot HaShachar, right? In between Mishe Yakir, Mishe Lo Yakir. All this time that it's not clear, right? Because most people, that Bain, that in between is a place of danger. Why is it danger? Because they have doubts, because they haven't opened themselves up to be able to connect between the two. To connect between the two. So how do we go, for example, between Chol, between Friday to Shabbat? How do we do though? We always do what?
We accept it early.
Tosefet Shabbat. We add on from Shabbat. How do we go from the holiness of Shabbat to the mundane, to the regular world? But we do Tosefet Shabbat on that end. We try to extend it so the transition will be for us more bearable. But the Bain in between, that's really the time. Now, according to Kabbalah, the opening is a place of Malchut, a place where the divine reveals itself in the reality, and that's the state of opening, in the space between things, like in the space between the atoms, in the space between, which is, the quantum physics makes the lights out of this. The space in between the things. That is the most important part. That's the most important part. In that space, that's when the absolute or the truthful vision is able to see. In other words, you're able to see the object, not not me. I'm able to see the in between, the true essence of things, the internal structure of how things are. I mean, for example, if I have metal, right? Old metals. Let's say, for example, I have 1095. It's a type of carbon steel, carbon metal. So I have 1095 and 1095 and 1095 and 1095. But the internal, it's all made from the same components. However, under certain circumstances, the internal structure of the metal could be changed. Heat, inappropriate quenching, and so on and so forth. So the internal structure is important. We all made the same thing, but I need to be able to see you in between because even the atom, even the molecules are materialistic. They have some kind of a weight to them. They're still physical. I need to see the part in you that is not physical. I need to go beyond that. So when Avraham Avinu sees the three people and he runs towards them, he's being answered with true vision, with true sight, right? And that true sight brought about the movement of him running, and that is the act of chesed. Not just looking to the side and watching everybody else doing, but looking, seeing, and responding to it. In other words, if other people are cleaning up, right? You need to look and to see the cleaning up. You need to run to do it. Why? Because that is the act of chesed. You're going to help your brother here. You're going to help him out. But what we do, we see somebody cleaning up. What do? Turn our heads around, and we run the other way. And then you wonder why God does not reveal Himself to you. Learn from Avraham Avinu. It's just the other way around, Rabbotai. Just the other way around. You have an opportunity. Abali adon mitzvah, al tachmitzena. In other words, there's like chametz in Pesach. What's a chametz? Chametz is when we let the dough rise. We waited too long. When the mitzvah comes upon your way, jump on it, grab it, do it. Why? Because then it's going to be unusable for you. It's pag tokef. It's finished. Avar zmano batal korbano. That's it. Time is over. You can't do it. You missed it. You have time to daven mincha. Don't wait for it. Oh, I missed it. I'll daven arvi twice. That doesn't work. You have a chance for you to learn. Sit down and learn. You know why? Because there will be time that you're not going to be able to go to learn. So sit down now, because right now the mitzvah is for you to learn. That's the way we approach it. That's how we deal with things. See, the true nature is a moment in man's essence that he really experienced the truth beyond form, beyond the physical. Like a leaf that falls from the tree is not separated from the wind itself. It's always carried by the wind. It doesn't go boom down. He's carried by the wind. Now, to see what we call great awareness or great compassion is not just a feeling. It's an ability to see things the right way, the right action. This is when a person understands that me and the other are not separate. We are one together. As the Rav Levi Yitzchak Mibardichev says, Ahava iriyat ha'el bazulat. Love is the ability to see God in the other person. That's ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. That's exactly what it means. And Avraham Avinu doesn't see God outside of the world. Avraham Avinu sees God inside the world, in the angels that come in the form of people to him, in the heat of the day, in the dust of the desert. This is ability. That's ability to see. That's a vision that it's not limited by your eyesight, that is not separated from life itself, but rather it is life itself. According to Kabbalah, a person was created, what we say in the Torah, also B'Tselem Elokim. In other words, he is the mirror in which God looks upon. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu was revealing himself to Avraham Avinu sees God. And then their sight, the eyes meet one another like two drops of water that fall together and they form one. There's no separation between the two. This is how we have to be. It says, as they said before, if you look at the moon looks at you. If you don't look at the moon, you don't even know where the moon is. I like to see where the moon is. I always like to see when I go out of my house at night. I want to see where the moon is. I always interested. If I ask most of you, you don't know where the moon is now. So is the heart of the person. So is the heart of the person, as it says in Sefer Mishlei, that we need to be able to reach a certain point that vision becomes a two-way street. Man sees God, and God sees the world through your eyes. That's why it's very careful. You have to be very careful with what you say about the world, because what you say is a reflection of what? Of you. The way you see the world is a reflection of you, and according to that, this is how God judges the world, based on your eyes. Based on your eyes and based on your actions. And this is the secret of prophecy. And prophecy will only comes through act of chesed. And the vision in this parasha is in a way a form of tefillah, of prayer without words. It's not a request, but rather presence. Avraham Avinu does not talk. Avraham Avinu simply is. He is present. He's sitting for the sake of sitting. In other words, that is a lishma act, for no other reason, just for it. In Kabbalah, it is called dvekut, attachment. To be in Hashem, to be with Hashem, without any thought, without any shape, only the vision, only seeing, only the vision. That vision is the revelation of Shekhinah. In ancient cultures, seeking a vision was a very big thing. Today we don't want to have vision. Today we have Instagram. And we are very lonely. And I'm going to tell you, it's very cold to be lonely. Because even if you don't have people, you at least have God. Today, we don't even have that. When a person really learns how to truthfully see, he himself becomes the sight himself. He's the one who purifies his heart as well. And the clean heart becomes a vessel to the light of Hashem. As it says, "B'makom shebo ayin achat Torah be'emet, kol ha'olam mitbayer." In a place, the one eye sees clearly, the whole world becomes clear. The whole world becomes clean. This is the wisdom of Avraham Avinu, to see what is not seen, to light the world in the light of Chesed, and to understand that every chance that we have to see is an invitation to a meeting with God Himself. And you got to prepare yourself, and don't miss this opportunity. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.